Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of George Reviews. And this episode, let's talk The Last of Us. So The Last of Us is a video game franchise. They've made two games for the PS3, PS4, PlayStation in general. And so I usually don't talk about video games on this channel. I'm not much of a gamer per se, but if a game has a cinematic quality to it, I will definitely check it out. Going as far back as the Resident Evil games, the Metal Gear Solid back on the PS1, and Final Fantasy VII, of course, being my all-time favorite game. I definitely like to play out a story of characters and seeing where that story goes within the gameplay. And so I naturally love the games of The Last of Us and, of course, the new HBO show that just came out. So as I said, I played both Last of Us games. I love the hell out of both of them. The second one actually being my favorite. I like the second one a little bit more than the first. Personally, that's just me. I feel like the first game kind of does suffer from some cliche storytelling, where you get your typical run-the-mill kind of zombie survivor apocalyptic type of story arcs within the characters. I found some of it to be a little, not like cliche in a bad way, but being familiar, whereas I thought the second game was a little less more familiar and really made some broad and risky story choices that not everyone liked. I get that. I get that a lot of people hate the second game. I was definitely spoiled for the whole experience of it, but I definitely enjoy it a lot more than the first one. I still love the first one, but to kind of give you an idea of my brief history with these games, I do love both of them. I love the storytelling. I love the characters. I love the atmosphere, the tone. The cinematography within the game itself is just breathtaking. The CGI is amazing and the gameplay is amazing. And all around, I love both games, especially through the wonderful, just beautiful brutality of both games and how hard they both go, what risks they're willing to take within the first opening segment of the first game that we do also see in the first episode. One of the most riveting and bold choices to tell on a story on any medium. So full-on spoilers for The Last of Us, both games and the first episode that just aired on HBO. I'm going to be getting into full-on spoilers, so you have been warned from this point. So when The Last of Us was announced as a HBO miniseries, I was very intrigued. I love HBO. I love HBO series dating all the way back to Oz, to The Sopranos, to 6 Feet Under. I'm a big fan of HBO. I haven't seen every single HBO series, but what I have seen, I do love, and you could probably take 3 or 4 out of my top 5 favorite TV shows, it would be shows that were featured on HBO. And so I was very excited to see a prestige drama of The Last of Us after playing the first 2 games and really enjoying that experience. I was really excited to get into the experience of the television series. A lot of people have reservations, I know. A lot of people who didn't like the second game kind of came into the series wanting to hate it. And overall, the response over the last week has been very, very positive for The Last of Us, and rightly do so. The first episode is amazing. It takes its time. It does get a little bit rushed near the end, which I would say would be my few gripes with the first episode, but ultimately it was just a very challenging, beautiful, brutal pilot of a show. It probably will go down as one of the best pilots ever created for television. Now, the television show is quite different, but also similar, taking the same story beats, and I'm assuming it will take some of the same story beats throughout the first game, but it does it in a very unique way, which I was really just curious, kind of comparing in my head as I was watching the first episode, how far it would take the story, how we would get introduced to the characters, and especially if they go just as hard with the Sarah death as in the first game, if it would be that brutal or if they would kind of shy away from it. But this is HBO and they usually don't like to shy away from anything, so I knew we were in pretty good hands. The series, of course, is co-created by Craig Mazin, developed with the game writer and developer Neil Druckmann, so I knew it was going to be a very interesting combination. Of course, Craig Mazin's very well known for his work on Chernobyl, a show I have not seen, but I get the hype around it. So it was very intriguing to kind of go into this, and when we go into it, it slams you just hard and punches you right in the face, gives you time to get to know these characters and spend time with them, maybe in not their most intimate or vulnerable state, but definitely in a state of intrigue. So we got Neil Druckmann, we got Craig Mazin, we got Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey of Game of Thrones fame, all in the mix, with a lot of great other cast members and a lot of great talent attached. So you have a really good combination and good chemistry for a really brilliant series. And so far, it's kicked off really, really great. We start off the episode in 1968 at a TV show panel about diseases, more specifically fungal diseases, infections, and things like that, and how a fungus could survive, in warmer weather. It's a very, very interesting way to kind of show the mythology of this outbreak, of what could happen and what will happen within this series. So I thought that was a really interesting way to just start us off with this panel that's not featured in the game at all. That's just gives you a lot of information and in a very entertaining way. Then we cut to 2003, which is where the game takes place. When the outbreak/pandemic starts, we're introduced to Joel and his daughter Sarah and his brother Tommy and their kind of day-to-day lives. And we kind of get the idea, as someone who hasn't really played the games would probably assume that our lead character would be Sarah. Most of the focus in these sequences are on her, as she goes to prepare to fix Joel's watch for his birthday and to plan something for him. And just showing the father-daughter relationship, I thought was very, very touching and very, really good chemistry between Pedro Pascal and the actress who plays Sarah. Her name is escaping me right now. But I thought that was a really, really great way to kind of show the relationship. Definitely very similar in parallels with the scenes in the game, but it's more extended, I would say. We get more of a sense of the world, the bright sunshine, and doesn't play overly happy or sappy. It just kind of shows it for what it is, just the day-to-day world. And I thought that was a really great way to kind of get us in touch with Sarah, to spend time with her. And we get the explosion of the outbreak. Definitely gets chaotic really fast, with plane crashes, with infected people roaming around, jumping around, even not to a ridiculous extent, but to an extent that's believable for this world. And when we get to that gut punch, it is excruciatingly tragic and just raw and painful. We feel all the emotion. As Sarah is shot by the militia soldier, we feel that pain. We feel the pain on Joel's face, and knowing that this is taking a very interesting and twisted turn of a series, that this is not going to hold any punches back. If you played the games, you know how dark both games can get. They very much like the early seasons of Game of Thrones. No character is really safe in this world, and that's not going to take any prisoners alive. It's just designed that way, and I just cannot wait to see what the series does with this aspect. If it's going to follow the plot of the games to a T, or if it's going to stray and do its own thing, I, for one, am excited to see what the series is going to do. And hopefully we get more than one season, is what I'm hoping out of this, of someone who has loved the second game and loved how dark and twisted the second game has gone. But that will be a discussion for a different video. Then we cut to 20 years later, after the excruciatingly devastating death of Sarah. And we see Joel is kind of a more hardened man. They definitely did a good job on the makeup on Pedro Pascal, looking younger and older within the series. And we see this is a world that is brutal, that is twisted, that is taking no chances with this disease. As we see a boy picked up in the QZ, the quarantine zone, and he is infected, and they kill him. Basically, they straight up just will kill anyone who is infected. Just take them out. It's a world of survival. This isn't a world of comforts or goals or aspirations. There's going from day to day just to survive, and we see that with characters with Joel and the character of Tess, who gets beaten to a pulp by Robert, which was a kind of an extended subplot within the beginning of the first game. They kind of tie it down a little bit in this first episode. They don't have a big kind of showdown where they're going to his lair and beating up all his goons. It definitely kind of is cuts a little bit shorter than what you'd expect if you're kind of comparing this to the game. And so that was kind of a welcome choice. I did enjoy in the first game how brutal the fighting got within Robert's lair, leading up to chasing him and hunting him down. But the show took a different turn, and it took a kind of a quicker turn, which is one that I enjoyed. And then we get to the introduction of Ellie, which I thought Bella Ramsey was just fantastic. She definitely embodies the spirit of Ellie as we get to know Ellie through in the first two games. A little bit different introduction than what we're used to seeing from the first game, which was fine by me, because she just kind of appears and she's kind of there. She's, kind of spunky when we first meet her in the first game, and now in the show, we see that she has like very much fuck you attitude towards everyone, which I was really just a big fan of. Those kind of two storylines just merge and collide. We see that Robert is murdered by the Fireflies, led by Marlene, who is played by the same actress who voiced her in the game, which I thought was a really cool fun fact. So good on them, because she definitely embodies everything I imagine Marlene being in a television show for The Last of Us. So that was just a really, really great choice on the creative team. And we get little tidbits on how Joel operates, how him and Tess operate as smugglers. They have codes over the radio. They play how their operation works. It doesn't spend too much time in their life in the QZ, which I kind of have mixed feelings about, because I definitely would have loved even just a full episode of them just doing, up to shit in the QZ and getting into trouble and, hunting down Robert. As much as that might have dragged the episode down, it is television and film kind of run at a different pace than video games, so you kind of have to rush things a little bit. And I felt the introduction to Joel and Ellie was great. It was still just a little bit rushed for my taste, and just getting her out there. But when they do get her out there, it is just moody and atmospheric. They're cornered by another militia soldier, which triggers Joel to beat him to the living pulp of death. And that's kind of where we end our episode on, which I thought was really great. It was a great end to the episode, ending on a Depeche Mode song to kind of signify that shit has hit the fan and shit is going to get dangerous. And we hear the sound of clickers. For those of you who will be finding out probably in the next episode, clickers are bad. Clickers are really far gone infected, and it's going to be interesting how they pull that off. But from the looks of the trailer, it looks really, really, really creepy and amazing. So very excited for that. But all in all, the first episode of Last of Us was just great. It brought me everything I was looking for in an episode to introduce us to this world, and hopefully we get more atmosphere and more time in the QZ as the series goes along. I know we have a new character played by Melanie Linsky coming up. She looks like she's in the quarantine zone, so I'm sure we're not quite done with the QZ life yet. And just with everything that happens to the characters along the way in the game, it'll be interesting to see how they pull it off in the show. And I, for one, will keep watching and keep reviewing as we get along with the series. But that is going to be my jumbled, messy thoughts on The Last of Us, the first episode in the games. And I'll definitely be commenting on the games as the season goes along as well, to kind of just comparing and contrasting on the developments of the games and everything. But those are my thoughts on The Last of Us. What did you think of the first episode of The Last of Us? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you going to be continuing to watching the series, or are you just done? You did not like it at all? But from the majority consensus, it looks like people are going to be along for the ride. This is going to be a massive hit for HBO. But tell me what you think. Please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. My name is George Ray. Thank you so much for tuning into this review and this episode of George Reviews. Please remember to keep calm, keep cool, keep chill, embrace great cinema. Let's go along the ride for The Last of Us. It's going to be fun. Until the next episode, I'll see you later. Peace out.